Java applets that you get over the web. Download them and they give your computers new powers. What are Java applets made of? Well, they're made of bits. They're just made of information. Now, memes aren't made of bits, but they are made of information. And they're downloaded into our minds in a way not unlike Java applets. What's long division made of? It's a pretty good tool. You'll remember that you probably learned how to do it thanks to English. You have, if you like, an English virtual machine which enables you to download the long division machine with a little practice. What's cost-benefit analysis made of? It's a bigger tool, a bigger applet, if you like. So these virtual machines are made of information, and it's this technology that remade the brain and that makes our minds. That's what our minds are made of. Lots and lots and lots of these tools. Well, who designed all these treasures that we have? Well, we know that some of the wonderful things that we get from our culture have individual, nameable authors, and we honor them, and we carve their names in the side of the library wall. And it's Pythagoras and Plato and Descartes and Newton and Shakespeare and Jane Austen and Madame Curie and a lot of other great authors of wonderful designs that we treasure. But most of the treasures that we download in this way have no author at all. Nobody designed language, nobody designed tonal music, nobody invented maps, nobody invented money. These things are products of natural selection, natural cultural selection. Well, then you may say, I don't know if I like this, but what am I? Who uses these tools? Well, you might think what you are is a sort of Cartesian ego with original intentionality. No, that's I think, a hopeless idea, but I won't try to argue for it here. I'll simply say what the alternative is, which is the proper Darwinian and Turingian, I don't know, Turing. What you are is an alliance of hemi-semi-demi-understood quasi-representations. Your mind is a virtual machine made of smaller, simpler virtual machines. And it guards the entrance and evaluates yet other virtual machines. Now, in The Origin of Species, Darwin opens the book. It's a wonderful read, by the way. It's a real page-turner. It's amazing. It's great literature in addition to being great science. It'll be fun to read this year, or reread. And he opens the book talking about methodical selection, how plant and animal breeders with foresight, with intent, set out to improve the breed, to make faster racehorses, more beautiful pigeons, smarter bird dogs, and the like. And then he points out that before there was methodical selection, there was what he called unconscious selection. And this is where people, by their actions, changed their domesticated species, not with intent and not with foresight, but just by ignoring the runts of the litter, favoring the best, or what they thought were the best. And over time, this led to changes, improvements, large-scale changes in domestic species. He calls that unconscious selection. So we start off with, if you like, intelligent selection, then we get selection which isn't so intelligent, in fact it doesn't need any intelligence at all, and then he goes and segues from that into natural selection. Notice all three of them are varieties of natural selection. Methodical and unconscious selection are just natural selection where the selective force is one particularly vigorous species, namely us. More recently, thanks to our culture, we've invented another variety. We have a quartet now because we've added genetic engineering, which is just like methodical selection, except that you don't wait around for a chance to give you the genomes that you want. You construct them directly. But then you let them loose and see if they can survive, and as often as not, they can't, because evolution is cleverer than you are. We can do the same with memes. The original memes were naturally selected, and these were what I call synanthropic memes. Synanthropic species are the species that live with us but are not domesticated. domesticated. They're wild, but they live with us, sometimes off us. So, for instance, rats, mice, cockroaches, barn swallows, pigeons, squirrels, bedbugs. Those are synanthropic species. They live with anthropos, with human beings. But we're not taking care of them. We're not shepherding them. We're not domesticating them. They're just well designed by natural selection to thrive in our company. Well, there's memes like that as well. Superstitions would be a good example. Then there's unconscious selection. For instance, the differential replication of tunes. These are folk tunes going back into the mists of prehistory, and only the most vigorous, unforgettable, memorable, lilting, enchanting tunes get copied and spread. Nobody's trying to spread them, nobody's trying to anthologize them or make money off them. They just spread because they can by unconscious selection. The Germans have a nice word for tunes like that, and they call them earworms. You know, one of those jingles you can't get out of your head, and then you hum it, and you pass it to your neighbor who now hates you. She's got it running through her head, and so forth. Then we have the methodical selection of domesticated memes. It's very important. A lot of people don't like memes because they think all memes are just the first two categories, but no. Science is made up of memes. Literature is made up of memes too. A good example of this, I think, is calculus. Because it's like laying hens. Laying hens would go extinct if it weren't for the patient help of human farmers, because the broodiness has been bred right out of them. They would not sit on their eggs and incubate them. So you have to have incubators. Calculus is sort of the same way. You have to work hard to get it to reproduce. I don't know, maybe here in Phoenix it's not that way. I mean, do you find that calculus is just infectious? Just can't get it out of my head. It's just, oh man, hum those second derivatives. I don't think so. I'm sure every math teacher and every science teacher wishes it were true, but it's not. And of course we have mimetic engineering. That's spin doctoring, advertising, and the like, sloganeering, trying to design memes that will go viral, that will spread around in the culture. And of course, we're not very good at that, thank goodness. What all of these means permit us to do is a certain kind of bootstrapping. It's happened in the past, and it will work again and again and again in the future. I'm just going to give you one example. How do you draw a straight line? That's very simple. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and a straight edge, and you draw the line against, you put the pencil on the straight edge and you draw the line, right? Where'd you get the straight edge? Well, you got it from the straight edge maker. How did he make the straight edge? Well, you see, he had this straight edge and a piece of metal, and he put it down and he... And where did he get the straight edge that he used it? Well, from another straight edge maker, and so forth. But not ad infinitum. In fact, there's an interesting book out on the history of straight edges. And it's an evolutionary process. Here's a diagram, here's a picture from it. This is a circa 1960 box straight edge. It's about as good as you could make it at the time. And the caption says that it's self-proving because of its shape, that is, it doesn't tend to distort. It's not subject much to thermal expansion or distortion. The same book has a diagram, which I love. What you see here, that wiggly line, is the imperfections in a block gauge, a gauge block. This is about the finest straight edge that could be made back in the late 60s. And it doesn't look very straight, does it, when you magnify the imperfections by a factor of 1,000,000. But look what's happened here. Here, we have a representation of the goal and the reasons for the goal. Here we have representations of the falling short of the goal. If you understand and represent your purposes, then you can measure